Good afternoon, dear students. Today we'll discuss physiology of hemodynamics. In the previous lecture, we have learned regarding cardiac output. Now let's proceed. Just to refresh, in cardiac cycle, there are two major events there in the ventricle. One is a ventricle systole, that is ventricle contraction, when blood is pumped from right atrium to the pulmonary circulation and from left ventricle to the systemic circulation. And ventricle filling takes place during the diastole, that is relaxation. So right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from whole circulation, and left ventricle receives from left atrium but from the lungs, that is a oxygenated blood. So this is the ventricular diastole. Now objectives of today's talk is, we'll be knowing what is hemodynamics, what are the different types of blood vessels, in that what are the resistance vessel, what are the capacitance vessels, and what is a laminar flow. Still few more parameters are there for hemodynamics, like we are having this Laplace's law, Wien-Kessel's vessel, and Poiseuille's law, that we'll learn in the next lecture. So this just a brief out of the circulation system. Heart, which consists of about 7% of blood, water, major arteries which are carrying 13% of blood, arterioles and capillaries, venules and venous sinuses which are carrying a chunk of blood, that is almost 60% of blood is there in this inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. Now this vena cavas are collecting deoxygenated blood from lower and upper part of the body. This is collected in the right atrium. It will go to the right ventricle, and from here it will go to the pulmonary circulation for oxygenation. Here it will get oxygenated. So this is called as a pulmonary circulation, which consists of about 9% of blood. It is a low pressure system. Its main function is to oxygenate the lungs. Now here we are in the COVID situation, we are doing a battle with the lung for this only, as the virus has entered in the lungs and trying to disrupt the oxygenation process. Now this blood will be collected back in the left atrium and left ventricle. Now from the left ventricle, this oxygenated blood will be distributed to whole body through a water. It will go to the different systems of the body, like it will go to the liver, it will go to the brain, it will go to the heart itself, it will go to the lungs also, it will go to the capillaries. Now here again it will become deoxygenated, and now this blood will come back to the heart. So it is called as a systemic circulation or major circulation, and this is the pulmonary circulation. So we are having two these circulations. Now our aim is to find out how this movement takes place. So hemodynamics means, hem means blood, we know it. Dynamics means power. The force involved in the circulating blood throughout the body. We have learned that the principal force which is pushing the blood to the blood vessel is the heart. We have seen detailed cardiac cycle and we have seen the cardiac output. Now once the blood is in the vessels, now what forces are it has to go through. So this is basically a part of physics, that's why it is called as a biophysics. So we'll be seeing what are the different forces are affecting this flow of the blood across the circulation. So physical principle of blood flow is quite simple. It depends on pressure and resistance. So greater the pressure difference between 2 points, greater is the flow. It's quite simple. And greater the resistance, less will be the flow. If you are putting up a barrier, flow will decrease, and if the pressure across the difference is more, there will be more flow. So flow will be pressure directly proportional and resistance is inversely proportional. Now here you can see in this 2 points, so suppose this is any blood vessel. So if pressure at this point is more and if this point it is less, so we'll have a better flow from here to there, and if pressure at both points is more, here as well as here, we'll have a less flow. So this simple principle works. And if this is the resistance, if the resistance is more, blood vessel is constricted, obviously flow will get reduced. Now the blood vessels, will take a histological aspect of this one. They consist of two major cell types that makes up the blood vessel. One is the endothelial cell, other is a vascular smooth muscle. These two are now the greatest area of research in the cardiovascular system. Ultimately, whatever medicines now we are using in the cardiovascular medicine, they are going to act on either the two only, basically. So if you want to modify the blood pressure, if you want to change so many things, ultimately these are the two great areas of research. So molecular research in the cardiovascular system is going on this. So you should learn this very keenly, because if you want to invent some new drug, or if you want to do treatment for any of the cardiovascular disorder, you have to concentrate back on this only, because these are the area of where the work is going on. And third is elastic tissues. Now this is quite simple. Elastic tissue is there. As we are aging, elasticity reduces and they become more stiff. So simply elasticity will change with the age. So these are the three major things in the blood vessel: endothelial cell, vascular smooth muscle, and elastic tissues. Now endothelial cell secretes growth regulators and vasoactive substances. Now this chemistry of this is very vital. Growth regulators and this. So again, as I mentioned you can, this is the area where we are working for so many things. Simple for the cancer. You know that cancer is nothing but growth of any cell of the body. It needs a blood supply. So if you are able to stop its blood supply by countering this growth regulators, you can win against the cancer. So that's what I'm telling you. This is the great area of research, which still a big area where you can work a lot, and there are so many vasoactive substances which leads to vasoconstriction as well as vasodilation. It is a great area of research for hypertension. As I mentioned you, hypertension is a global killer. 90% patients, we don't know what is the cause, so we label this as a primary or essential hypertension. So if you are able to find some counter drug antagonist to this vasoactive substances, we can win against hypertension also. So these are the area where we can work, and we can give humanity a great weapon against this cardiovascular disorders. And this vascular smooth muscle, it determines the vascular tone. Again, blood pressure ultimately depends on this. More the muscle tone, more will be the pressure. So these are the key area. This appears very simple, 5-6 word, but this is the area of research for cardiovascular and cancer disorders. This is histology of a blood vessel. It consists of the three layers: inner endothelium. These are the two elastic tissues, laminas, internal and external, and this is a media which consists of the smooth muscle. Now this system, if you take a section of all this is the aorta, major artery, which has got, you can see all the inner, middle as well as the outer. So it is having in the larger arteries are having smooth muscles, and they are more elastic tissues. You can see it is rich in elastic tissues. These are the median sized arteries, arterioles, capillaries, which are lacking both. They will be lacking the smooth muscle as well as the elastic tissues. They are simply having a single layer of endothelium only in them. Venules, which are thin walled as compared to arteries, very small amount of smooth muscle in them. These are the large veins. So if you again go back to your histology of in anatomy, you will have a detailed look of this one. But we are more interested in physiology, functional aspects, so we'll be concentrating main on this smooth muscle, because its modulation is basically physiological. The walls of aorta and other arteries of large diameter contains a large amount of elastic tissues. They are stretched during systole and recoil on the blood during diastole. Wall of arterioles contains less elastic tissue but much more smooth muscles. The arterioles are the major sites of resistance to blood flow because the smooth muscle will contract and relax. So this is under the autonomic control. Now in the vessels, a large amount of blood can be added to venous system before the veins become distended to a point where further increment in the volume produces a large rise in venous pressure. That's why these veins are called as capacitance vessel. They are able to adjust more amount of blood with less amount of pressure. On the contrary, the small arteries and arterioles are referred to as resistance vessel because they are the principal site of peripheral resistance. Because whenever there is sympathetic stimulation, smooth muscle contract and there is a change in diameter of blood vessel, this will lead to increase in resistance. Innervation we have already learned from vasomotor center. Sympathetic chain is arising and it is supplying the blood vessel as well as the heart. The blood vessel has got a poor parasympathetic supply. It is basically sympathetic dominant. So ultimately all from the cortex, limbic system, hypothalamus, it is going to have influence. So whenever we are under stress or under emotion, it is going to straightly affect our blood vessel through smooth muscles of blood vessel. Now we'll see how it affects. The muscle is innervated by noradrenergic nerve fibers which function as a constrictor, and in some instances by cholinergic fibers. As I mentioned you, in the skeletal muscle it is sympathetic cholinergic which secrete acetylcholine and this will dilate the blood vessels. Arterioles are major sites of resistance to blood flow and small change in their caliber causes large change in total peripheral resistance. Now this norepinephrine having a greater affinity for alpha adrenoreceptors. Now this alpha again, alpha 1, alpha 2, beta also, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. But in the blood vessel smooth muscle we are having alpha 1 adrenergic receptors. So these are coupled with G proteins to phospholipase C. Whenever they are stimulated, leading to formation of inositol triphosphate and DHE, which mobilizes intracellular calcium store and activate protein C. Now when the calcium is more, if you just go back again to the smooth muscle contraction process, calcium is acting as a key. This will lead to opening of the active sites of actin and actin myosin combination. So smooth muscle contraction takes place. But in smooth muscle there is additional phenomena called as latch bridge phenomena, which will lead to consistent contraction of muscle for a long period of time. So thus activation of alpha adrenergic receptor leads to excitation and basically vasoconstriction. The ability of our arterioles to distend and recoil is important in modulating blood pressure. See, we are discussing biophysics. So if the arteries were a rigid tube, pressure would rise much more in systole and drop to nearly zero in diastole. So whenever we are pumping we are using our water tanks, our pump is there which is pumping. So when it is pumping, same pressure will go inside the tubes also, or our pipes. But same thing is not happen in case of the blood vessel. When heart is pumping, blood pressure, the blood vessel blood is going. But what will happen now? Because of the elastic tissues, it will absorb some of the pressure. And when the heart is relaxing, even if the pressure in the ventricles are zero, it will not drop back to zero in vessels because these are elastic. They will recoil back. So but when conducting arteries are healthy, they expand with each systole and absorb some of the forces of ejected blood. Then when the heart is in diastole, their elastic recoil exerts pressure on the blood and prevents blood pressure from dropping to zero. Now what is this phenomena? I will be asking you. Now applicability of this physical principle. The blood vessel is not a rigid tube and blood is not a perfect fluid. That's why same principle will not work in the whole body system. So now these blood vessels are very elastic, okay, and this fluid inside is again not like a water. So what is happening now? In the blood vessel, the blood which is near this will have a low velocity. It will almost stick to this blood vessel. And as you move from here to there, velocity goes on increasing. And at the center, will have a maximum velocity. So that's why if the vessel diameter reduces, you can see flow will be less as compared to the big vessel. So this is called as a laminar flow. So flow highest in the center, lowest at the sides. So this is because of the blood which consists of so many solutes, and as well as it consists of cells. Because of this, a typical laminar flow is there. That's why when there is change in diameter of blood vessel, you can see this is the diameter where the flow is 1 ml per minute. But with slight increase in diameter, see the flow is 16 ml per minute. With further increase, it is 256 ml per minute. So this is the advantage of laminar flow. As the blood is not like a water, it is rich in cells and the solutes, and the blood vessels are also elastic. Now this laminar flow occurs at a velocity up to certain critical velocity only. When everything goes normal, laminar flow is maintained and there is no sound in the blood vessel. But at and above this velocity, flow will be turbulent. The probability of turbulence is also related to diameter of vessel and viscosity of the blood. This probability can be expressed by ratio of inertia to viscous forces as follows. See, this is the blood vessel. So if you get some blockage here, because of whatever reason, maybe because of a constriction at locally, or maybe because of some plaque, atherosclerosis, clot, what will happen? Velocity will rise. You can see. So here velocity was normal, but because of this distance, velocity rises. Because of this, you will get laminar flow gets disturbed. So this is called as a turbulence. So this happens in the blood vessel whenever there is a generation of abnormality. So under normal condition, you will not get any sound on the blood vessels. But when you get some sound on the blood vessel, you have to think that there is some problem inside the vessel. That means laminar flow is disturbed. Now this can be found by Reynolds number. It depends on density of fluid, diameter of the tube under consideration, velocity of the flow, and viscosity of the fluid. So this is the Reynolds number. Through this formula, we can determine whether the flow will be turbulent or what. So this Reynolds number, constriction of artery produces turbulence and sound beyond constriction. Examples are bruit heard on the arteries. So whenever there is an atherosclerotic plaque inside the arteries, you will get a sound that is called as bruit. And during our blood pressure measurements also, we'll see during our practicals, when you are tying a cuff on the blood vessel and we are constricting the blood vessel, you get some sounds on the brachial arteries. So these sounds are called as Korotskov sound. These are again nothing but generation of turbulence because of the compression of blood vessel. So these are the clinical application. Through this we can, now through this compression we are able to find the blood pressure. We'll see how the mechanism. But if your normal vessel is showing some sound, this or like that is called as a bruit. This will indicate that there is some problem underlying. There can be atherosclerotic plaque. So by clinical examination also we can find these problems. So here we are completing this part of hemodynamics. We have learned today only two things. One is the structure of blood vessel, which are rich in the endothelial cell and the smooth muscle. And second thing we have learned laminar flow. And the next lecture we will see second part of hemodynamics, that is we will see the Laplace law, we will see the Poiseuille's law, and some other law which are helping us understand the hemodynamics. Thank you.